Medaka is a virgin loser who is a bigger Chad than Mr. Winner Gojo Satoru himself, but everything changes when he meets the school's hottest baddie who wants to gobble his glizzy and become his baby mama. In the beginning, it was a glorious day in a hospital, as among the ugly-looking babies that were born was a glowing and beautiful baby Mona. As she grew up, Mona rizzed every single one of her peers, both men and women. Even when she played hide-and-seek with her friends, they all gladly asked Mona to catch them so they could touch her sweet sweat. And it made her feel like she was on top of the world, a queen bee that was above everyone, where all of them are bums compared to her. In the present, Mona wakes up to greet her own reflection due to how pretty she is. And when she gets to school, everyone there greets her like she's the best thing since the invention of sliced bread. However, when Mona gets to class, everyone also greets her apart from one man, a new student, the Sigma, who is more Chad than Giga Chad himself, Medaka. He greets her without glazing her like the others, and it frustrates Mona that this moron treats her differently from the others every day. She tries to play cute with Medaka, offering him a tour of the school while putting up a cute face, but Medaka tells this skank to leave him alone, which angers the other boys and frustrates Mona. Just then, she notices that on his phone, Medaka is scrolling through cat pictures, so she tries to riz him by acting like a cat, offering him to look at some cats while he can make her kitty purr. But while the others think she's cute, it pisses off Medaka so much that he refused to show her any cat pics, which is a crime against humanity. He adds salt to the wound by telling Mona not to talk to him unless it's necessary, and it hurts Mona's ego so much, as all her life, she always charmed boys into wanting to be her baby daddies. But today, Mona runs away in frustration due to Medaka's reaction. However, she refuses to give up, so the next day, Mona pretends to put on a poster while showcasing her smoother-than-butter legs.
You naughty, naughty.
But when Medaka walks past her, he stops for a second, gets pissed, and walks away. Mona refuses to stop here, so she pretends to fall and showcases her pink undies. While the other boys want to sniff it, Mona is surprised to see Medaka even more angry than before. It leaves her with no choice, so the next day she pretends to be sick in class, and when the teacher tells her to bring someone with her to the nurse's office, she pretends to fall on Medaka, saying that he will take her there. In the nurse's office, she tempts him while they are alone and asks him not to hate her, but just as Medaka is blushing, he quickly switches to a reaction that tells Mona that her sweet cheeks ain't shit. Mona gets desperate and pulls him away, but they both slip and end up on the bed where Mona is on top of him. When she looks down, she sees that Medaka is glaring as if he wants him to get railed by Truck-kun, and Mona feels down, but still so desperate that she decides to show him her melons.
It should have been me, not him!
While most men would quickly fold in this situation, Medaka, being the anti-simp, clears up his mind to reject her. Mona starts crying out of frustration and falls from the bed, but Medaka manages to catch her, which rizzes her up like how I rizzed your mum to gobble my glizzy last night. She quickly realizes how exposed she is, and Medaka gets flustered before putting his cold reaction back on. He leaves the room, but before going back to class, he tells Mona that she should only get her jugs jiggled by the person she likes, and here she is completely under Medaka's charm. Later, she goes back to class where everyone welcomes her back, but when she sits down next to Medaka, it's as if the situation has flipped, where Medaka keeps staring at her while Mona is unable to look him in the eye. It pisses her off that it makes her seem like she's in love with him, so she smashes her head on the table and promises that she will have his heart. Days later, Mona arrives at school where everyone glazes her like usual, but when she meets Medaka, he avoids her like she's an STD. Just then, two girls walk past Medaka, and one of them, Asahi, blushes when she sees him. Afterward, during gym class, Mona stretches provocatively to get Medaka's attention, but even with her showcasing her sweet cheeks or her milky melons, Medaka refuses to fold. However, she still holds the secret weapon, and after a game of basketball, the whole class is in awe seeing Mona wet and sweaty, but she showcases her trump card, which is her belly button, to Medaka, thinking it would work. Medaka simply walks away to refresh himself by pouring water on his head, and not before long, Mona walks next to him to also refresh herself. She has enough and goes for a drink, but when she looks at Medaka, she realizes that he is staring at her and her luscious lips. It excites her so much that she accidentally gets herself so wet that Medaka can see her pink perfection. They both start panicking, but being the ultimate anti-simp, Medaka takes off his shirt and makes Mona wear it. Having dirty thoughts of her own, she peeks at her belly button, which makes her feel naughty. Medaka leaves her after she calms down, But during all of this, a random girl sees everything. After school, Medaka is walking home when two of his classmates, Yuzuru and Shu, confront him about him being mean to Mona. They talk somewhere else and Medaka reveals that he is actually a monk in training who is an heir to a temple that has no baddies, but only goats and old prunes available. For Medaka, he has never seen a girl as thick and cute as Mona since he saw Megan Fox in a pirated DVD of Transformers. The boys suggest that Medaka be a little nicer to Mona, but Medaka knows that if he does, he will surely fall in love with her. He screams out in frustration and pushes away all of his impure thoughts before composing himself, realizing that this life he's enduring is a test for him to become a true monk. The next day, Mona returns Medaka his shirt back, and when she teases him about how he could still sniff the smell of her sweat on it, Medaka quickly looks away to prevent himself from folding. Seeing this, Mona, a queen bee baddie that every man would love to cream to, promises to herself that she will make Medaka fall for her. The next day, Mona wakes up like usual by greeting herself in the mirror like a narcissistic mug.
Brother,
And when she runs to school, she purposefully runs by swaying her jugs around and showcasing her cheeks to rizz up all the bum-ass NPCs and turning them into her simps.
That's weird.
At school, it's time for art class, and Mona strikes a pose to make Medaka cream.
Yeah, boy.
But while he does think she's cute, he composes himself from her charms, which pisses her off. Mona refuses to give up and tempts Medaka by saying that she's willing to be painted like Rose in Titanic, but Medaka still manages to keep his composure intact. She starts looking for poses and recalling how Medaka folded to her drinking some water. Mona strikes a pose that reveals her neck to him.
yes.
Mona comes so close as Medaka gets extremely flustered, but by channeling the same energy he has for No Nut November, he cleanses himself from degenerate thoughts. Then they start drawing, but while Mona is busy posing, she notices that a fellow classmate, Tsubomi, keeps looking her way like a stalker to the point that her own model gets pissed at her. Just then, Medaka stares daggers at Mona, and when she asks him which part of her body he's drawing, he answers that he's drawing her neck. It makes her extremely conscious of her neck as Medaka is staring at her, and it makes her squeamish as her lower lips are dripping sweet nectar. But she quickly stops the session and runs away to the bathroom. There, Mona composes herself, and can't believe that she folded to Medaka's glare. Meanwhile, Medaka is getting teased by his homies as his portrait is not finished, but he himself is struggling not to use that picture for his night pump session.
It was perfect, down to the last minute details.
Later, she meets Medaka again in the library as they are reaching for the same book, but when she offers to read it together with her, he opts to read something else. Not wanting to be with her due to her cuteness. Then, she manages to sit beside Medaka and reads the same book as him, while he struggles not to paint his pants white. Just then, she notices Tsubomi stalking her and wonders why she keeps staring at her. Suddenly, Mona comes to the realization that it might not be her that Tsubomi is stalking, but it's Medaka all along. She imagines that Medaka actually likes Tsubomi back and refuses to accept it as she has been the one pulling out the moves to get him to fold. Realizing she needs to do something, Mona reassesses her situation and sees that maybe Medaka likes the bookworm type, so Mona just does that. She sits in front of him, wearing glasses and tea in hand, and she speaks like she's Shakespeare. She manages to get a reaction from Medaka, so she raises the level by touching her leg with her feet, tempting to touch his third leg if he folds to her. While Medaka wants nothing more than to see what Mona's foot can do.
What do you mean by that?
Medaka clears up his mind, tells her that her feet are crusty, and walks away, leaving Monaka dry and frustrated, but she notices how happy Tsubomi looks after seeing her getting rejected and realizes that she has a love rival. The next day, Mona tails Tsubomi on her daily routine from watering the plants and cleaning the blackboard, and she realizes that Tsubomi is a basic bitch that has a good personality that every boy would bust to. In the locker room, Mona gets more frustrated when she sees that Tsubomi is carrying melons that are not only bigger but juicier than hers. At that moment, some girls praise her jugs, but Tsubomi shows how modest she is to compliments, and it makes Mona run laps in frustration at how pure Tsubomi is. The next day, she concludes that Tsubomi is a nicer girl than her, and that if Medaka prefers a girl like her, then Mona is screwed. Just then, the ultimate simp, Shu, pose up to give Mona a book she asked for, and when she jokingly tells him she loves him, Shu leaves happy, ready to meet God. Mona realizes that what she just said to Shu, she has never said to Medaka, and here she has another plan of attack. Later on the rooftop, Medaka is being chilling when a handkerchief flies to him. He catches it and Mona pops up to get it back from him. She thanks him for being such a Chad and for catching her favorite handkerchief, and tells him what she told Shu. However, when she is about to tell him she loves him, Mona struggles to say it, and it confuses her on why she's folding in place. The wind starts blowing them, and while Mona is still struggling, Medaka is enjoying the view.
Yeah, boy.
She cuts short the conversation before running away, and she gets frustrated knowing that Tsubomi is getting closer to gobble Medaka's glizzy. The next day, the class elects 2 students for their festival committee through a raffle, and while Tsubomi manages to be the first, Mona draws and gets herself to be the second. Then they discuss activities they should nominate for the festival, and while Tsubomi can't wait to see Mona in a cute bunny costume, Mona imagines herself in a stuffy suit. Just then, Mona breaks her pencil, and like a true saint, Tsubomi quickly offers her some of hers. Suddenly, Tsubomi freaks out about her phone, stating that Mona absolutely cannot see it, but just like any normal human being, it makes Mona want to see it more. She chases Tsubomi and screams at her, telling her to stay away from Medaka. They end up on top of each other, and when Mona takes a look at the phone, he sees pictures of her in Tsubomi's phone. Tsubomi starts crying, asking Mona not to hate her, and reveals that she has been her biggest fan since the entrance ceremony. Mona realizes that Tsubomi isn't stalking Medaka, and she calms her down, saying that her creepy scissors desires don't bother her.
What?
However, Mona realizes she spouted out Medaka's name during the chase and tries to cover it up, but it's too late for her as Tsubomi now knows that she has a thing for Medaka and actually encourages Mona to go get her shit clapped by Medaka's ding-a-ling. Days later, the class starts their preparation for the festival, and ever since what happened between them, Mona and Tsubomi start talking a lot with each other. Whenever Mona looks at Medaka, Tsubomi encourages her to rizz him up.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
And it frustrates Mona that Tsubomi misunderstands her feelings for Medaka, as what Mona wants is for Medaka to love her and lick her crusty-looking feet. Later, while checking the costumes for the festival, Tsubomi informs Mona of the school's urban legend called the Bridge of Love. When Mona asks what it is, Tsubomi shows her out the window a bridge, and Tsubomi explains that the legend said that if 2 people hold hands on the bridge during the festival, they will fall in love with each other forever. She adds that multiple couples have been formed and even already have kids from it. Just then, Tsubomi gets called outside, leaving Mona alone, and she gets frustrated that her reputation as Queen Bee is getting destroyed as she fails to get Medaka to want to clap her. She looks at the costumes on the table and starts trying them out with the plan of folding Medaka like a lawn chair, but she comes up empty. So Mona takes inspiration from Mei-san and wears a bunny girl outfit to rizz Medaka, but before she gets to take it off, Medaka walks in. They both are in shock, and while Mona tries to explain herself, she can hear Tsubomi heading back to the room. She imagines that Tsubomi will get deeper into the misunderstanding of her feelings for Medaka, thinking that Mona wore the costume to cream Medaka dry, but Mona refuses to let that happen and pulls Medaka to hide. When Tsubomi returns, she sees the bunny ears on the floor while Mona and Medaka are hiding in the closet. With the space tight between them, their bodies touch and Medaka can feel Mona's squishy melons.
It should have been me, not him!
He starts breathing heavily, imagining some old granny getting clapped to prevent his mind from wandering.
What?
And Mona struggles herself as she can feel Medaka's breath. Before they both fold, Tsubomi gets called out again, right before Medaka paints his pants white. While relieved, Mona realizes that what she did might finally fold Medaka, but when she looks back, she realizes she has crossed the line. Mona looks at her own reflection and tells herself that she doesn't look cute, but Medaka hears what she says. While Mona tries to cover what she just said, Medaka tells her that she's cute, which surprises Mona. Before leaving the room, it completely folds Mona like how I folded your mom like a pretzel. And she gets pissed that she's the one falling in love. On his way back to class, Medaka can't believe he called Mona cute, but he tells himself to lock in and not get close to girls like a proper monk. The next morning, Mona comes to class confident after Medaka calls her cute, but when she greets Medaka, he greets her coldly, shocking everyone.
Come on now, dawg. Come on, man.
Days later, the festival starts, and Mona's class holds a bunny cafe that everyone visits because of Mona. Among them, 2 girls, Asahi and Minami, are there, and Asahi is looking for Medaka, but she can't see him because he's in the kitchen. Then break time arrives, and when Mona tries inviting Medaka to spend his break with her, he declines.
I know what kind of man you are.
She keeps insisting that he come with her, but when Medaka makes every effort to reject her, Mona realizes that after what happened the other day, Medaka closed himself fully from her charms. Suddenly, Tsubomi puts bunny ears on both Mona and Medaka. She plays the wingman for Mona and orders for both Medaka and Mona to team up and promote the cafe. Then, as they walk together, they walk past a haunted house that Mona is extremely scared of. But when she looks at Medaka, she can see that he is interested and wants to go in. For Medaka's sake, she convinces herself to go in and that the crusty-looking haunted house is not scary. However, when she steps in, Mona gets scared easily, while Medaka enjoys the design of the place, praising them for their authenticity. Just then, Mona's skirt gets stuck on a prop, and being scared, she holds Medaka's shirt to beg for his help. When Medaka looks back, he realizes that her gooch is almost out and refuses to look or help. It ends with Mona running away with the prop on her rice cakes, leaving the haunted house traumatized. After calming down, they return the prop that any guy would sniff in secret.
What do you mean by that?
And after what just happened, Mona aims to take Medaka to an exciting festival experiment. She starts by taking Medaka to eat crepes, but while she tries to make him fold by putting cream on her face, a bird flies in and eats the crepe from Mona's hand. Then Mona takes Medaka to a concert, but when she tries to get Medaka to lift her on his shoulder, she asks the wrong person and accidentally asks a clapped-looking dude, which scares her. Then she takes Medaka to a balloon art class, but while she tries her best, her balloon ends up popping, and Medaka manages to make one for himself. The day almost ends with Mona depressed after all the failed attempts, but she and Medaka accidentally walk past a lot of couples on a bridge. Just then, Mona remembers that it's the Bridge of Love that Tsubomi told her about, and Mona has a plan on what to do next. Meanwhile, back in the class, everything is going wrong in the kitchen.
Disgusting!
And they beg Medaka to come back. Asahi gives up wanting to find Medaka, and Nami feels sad for her friend for not being able to see her Prince Charming. Back with Mona, she notices people around her see her there, and they question on who the guy is next to her. Realizing that it's bad, she quickly pretends that she and Medaka are here to promote the cafe to these couples, and they all feel relieved to know that no man has unraveled Mona's cheeks before this.
What do you mean by that?
However, Mona sees this as an opportunity, so she informs Medaka about how holding hands on this bridge of love will make them love each other forever.
What?
She keeps trying to hold his hand, even falling to the floor to ask him to lift her up, but not wanting to hold her hand, Medaka lifts Mona up by her armpits. When Medaka leaves, Mona feels tingly in her armpits and goes after Medaka. She believes that she can still do it and tries to get him back there, but her other classmates pop up and ask them to go back to work, putting an end to her plans. However, when Tsubomi notices that Mona's plans have failed, she orders both Medaka and Mona to carry a table back to its location to ensure Mona still has a chance. On their way there, Mona refuses to look up, not having the energy to fake a smile like usual. However, because of this, she doesn't see where she's walking and almost gets herself hit by a box, but Medaka saves her. When she looks down, she sees that she's holding his hand and that they are at the Bridge of Love. Medaka starts panicking and tells her that the festival is over, so the magic doesn't work. However, he expresses that he had fun being with her today as he has never been to a festival before, and Mona is annoyed that she is folding to his charms. The next day, Mona and Tsubomi arrive at school and see a lot of new couples, and Mona can't believe that all of these idiots believe in the Bridge of Love. However, when she sees Medaka, her heart starts beating faster than a rabbit humping, and she hides from Medaka, not knowing why. The boys notice them, and as they walk to class together, they invite the girls to go bowling after school. There, Mona hits a strike, and wanting to take her chances, she high-fives everyone, but when she gets to Medaka, he stops. She asks him to give her some, but when she sees his manly hand, she recalls their hand-holding, and she runs away flustered after remembering what happened. Following this, Medaka is freaking out after almost high-fiving Mona, but while he's trying to fight his desires, he deep down wants to give it to her. Meanwhile, Mona realizes she's screwing up, but she refuses to give up, so she walks to Medaka and sits next to him. She starts acting cute again and expresses how thirsty she is for Medaka's sweet juice. She takes the drink from his hand, and while Medaka has put his lips there, Mona gathers her resolve and drinks from it.
Brother,
Showing Medaka that she's the nastiest kitty around. She hands it back to him for him to drink, but Medaka sees this as a challenge for him to become a monk and lets Mona have the rest of the drink.
It should have been me, not him!
Days later, Mona presents herself in her new cute winter outfit, but when she tries to show it to Medaka, he quickly composes himself and tells her to choke on a glizzy. Seeing this, Medaka's homies get pissed, and they text him, telling him to meet them after school. One of his friends, Shu, scolds Medaka for being rude to Mona. And while Medaka argues that her beliefs don't allow him to fall in love, Shu tells him that despite not being in love, Medaka should still be friendly with her. Yuzuru asks if his teaching doesn't let him be nice, and that Mona has been really good to him, and this makes Medaka feel guilty. Then, Tsubomi confronts Medaka about the same thing, stating that Mona has always been kind to him, but he has been cold to her. Unbeknownst to all of them, Medaka's feelings are stirring up because of Mona. Just then, Medaka spots Mona helping a teacher, and he realizes how right everyone is about him. At class, Mona forgets her textbook at home, and wanting to be nice, Medaka offers to share his with her. She feels happy, but as she's about to move her desk closer to his, Medaka moves away, and he sees that Mona is hurt by this. He realizes that he messed up, and when he sees everyone gesturing for him to do something, Medaka moves his table close to Mona's instead. She is surprised by this, and when she sees that Medaka is approaching her, she thanks him, and Medaka folds to her second best curves after her Melanthur smile.
Yeah, boy.
Medaka decides that he can be nice to her, as long as he doesn't fall in love. Comment, Bridge of Plot, if you want a part 5, and if you like anime recaps like this, then watch this video right here.